Hey, what's up YouTube? Goratha here. So over the last couple of days, I've been asked a lot of questions about Boneshatter, and Boneshatter Jug in particular. People have been wondering, how do I level the character? What do I recommend doing now? How has the build changed? So I decided to make an update video. The last video I made for this wasn't too long ago, but there was a couple of things that have changed, so I've decided to make a video. Let's get into it. So how do you level Boneshatter now? Specifically Boneshatter Jug. First off, I would recommend you meal a duelist. So regardless of what you're playing, like what league you're playing, I would meal a duelist, get Splitting Seal from the quest reward, get Chance to Bleed, check your winners for red, red, green, or green, green, red, and yeah, this level is Splitting Seal until level 12. Now level 12 is where it gets interesting. This is where you would normally be Helix. Like Helix has been the go-to for as long as I can remember. Helix got a pretty big nerf though, so while it's still playable while leveling, I think there's actually a better way now. The way I would recommend you level now is by going Sunder. Now Sunder is actually quite a bit better than I was expecting. Sunder should carry you pretty well until you get Boneshatter up and running. One downside with Sunder is the single target is a bit lower, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. And I gotta be honest, it's completely fine. Like, you'll do quite well with it. Before we get further into the video, I want to remind you guys to like and subscribe if you've been enjoying this type of content and you've been enjoying the videos I've been making. I'm pretty bad at reminding people, so I figured I'd throw it in here. I've also changed the leveling tree. I've messed around with a couple of runs. I figured out the best way to level as Marauder. So let's get into that. How do you level as Marauder super fast? The Marauder has a lot of issues. Specifically early on, you don't actually get a movement skill. You have to buy one from the vendor. And when you do buy one from the vendor, you don't actually have int or dex to run it, so you have to get versatility, which means we're rushing versatility. Let me just start this tree over and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. Early on, you have two options. You can go through the strength, or you can go through the life. I recommend just going through the life nodes. You're going to go for it later anyways. You may as well get it early. Have some more life early on. Then you want to grab versatility as soon as possible. So this is for two reasons. Even if you find a Lapis Amulet, you're still going to need accuracy. Marauder has less than 80% chance to hit without any accuracy. So you want to rush this anyways, regardless if you find a Dex Amulet or a Jade Amulet. Past that, I actually recommend now getting Lust for Carnage. This is a node I don't even take in the endgame tree. But early on, you should rush this. This makes it so you can actually leap slam pretty effectively without hating the game. Like if you don't have Lust for Carnage, you're going to have no attack speed at all, and it's going to be painful. Past that, I recommend going for Born to Fight. Born to Fight or Harvest of Foes. You can probably grab whichever one you want. Harvest of Foes gives you the Rage Mastery. You're going to drop both of these later though. Then you get the Rage Mastery from Hatchet Master, which is what we're going for next. So after that, you go for a Hatchet Master. And we have Hatchet Master. Yeah, at some point you respec and you just grab the Rage, and you have the Rage going. I would leave Lust for Carnage for as long as you can. I guess it's worth mentioning as well, by the way, you can also level with the melee fizz now. Because before Helix didn't benefit from that, but if you're going Sunder into Boneshatter, you can theoretically just level with more damage. It's up to you. You're going to eventually respec for life though, so whichever you prefer. And that's how I start the leveling tree. This is your early game leveling tree. After that, you go for Precise Technique. Get that up and running, you get some Leech. Past that, we get the swap to Sunder to Boneshatter. So once you go Boneshatter, first off, before you go Boneshatter, I talked about this before, you want Inexorable. This is a really important mastery / like node you want to take before you switch to Boneshatter. This basically means you hit yourself, so you're getting endurance charges every time you Boneshatter. This is quite useful. You definitely want to grab this as soon as possible. Also, I recommend getting Undeniable from Lab and then switching to Boneshatter once you have Untiring. So Untiring is what you want to actually have before you swap. This will allow you to have recovery, and paired with Inexorable, you should be able to swap to Boneshatter relatively early. You want to have Determination on as well, and Soul Steel. The main thing that you need is Inexorable. This gives you a lot of armor, and it gives you endurance charges. This is what the tree looks like here. We take the accuracy nodes early on as well. Lots of all res, accuracy for Precise Technique. All works pretty well. Past that, this is the endgame tree. Not much has changed here. We add some suppression in. We add like max resin. We add in like the Sun Mastery and the 2-hand nodes. As well as Call to Arms with Enduring Cry Ancestral Cry, and Slaughter Nodes. These are giving you more attack speed and whatnot, and this is how the tree looks at like endgame. I talked about this a lot before in the other video. You can potentially get Impaler. Impaler is quite good if you don't have a 100% chance to impale. Some people don't bother getting a 100% chance to impale. It's kind of preference, honestly. Also, it's worth noting that Bastion Breaker is quite good. I wasn't using it in this POB because I have Bear's Girdle. But if you don't have Bear's Girdle, I recommend taking Bastion Breaker and getting the Impale Mastery. You can drop the Fortified Nodes. These aren't required at all, honestly. And Cloth and Chain isn't required at all either. This is how the tree would look with Bastion Breaker and no Bear's Girdle. And yeah, I mean, this is kind of what I would go for. And honestly, the tree has not changed since 3.19. Completely the same. There is one big change I do want to mention though before I leave, and that is the strike skills which target additional enemies can do so from 30% further away. So yes, Boneshatter actually got hit by a nerf. We no longer get the strike skills which target additional enemies can do so from 30% further away. This is actually kind of significant. It's not a huge deal breaker or anything though. Like Juggernaut Boneshatter is one of the strongest starters you can play. It's got a slight nerf, which is kind of weird because it's melee, and nerfing melee is kind of weird, but yeah, it is what it is. Okay, now that we have the tree out of the way, I quickly want to talk about some gems. I'm not going to go over all of the gem links, but I do want to talk about some of the important ones. Let's start with leveling. So a lot of people ask me, like, what do you level with? What are your gem links while leveling? So I'll quickly talk about that. Footing Seal linked to Chance to Bleed and Onslaught. So that's the first link once you have a third link. The most important link being Onslaught. Onslaught is the most important thing throughout the campaign. Moving on to level 12, you drop the Splitting Seal for Sunder. So if you have a 3 link and it's like green, green, red, unfortunately you have to drop the Chance to Bleed and use Sunder. You can grab Close Combat at level 18 for like the other green socket, or use Chance to Bleed, Sunder, Onslaught. Once you hit level 18, you can start swapping in Close Combat over Onslaught on bosses. That's a little tryhard, but it is something you can do if you like to like gem swap. Past that, Melee Fizz is not that bad, and Brutality at level 38. So at some point, you're going to be dropping Onslaught and having Sunder, Close Combat, Melee Fizz, Brutality. And that's what I would recommend while leveling. You're probably not going to have a 5 link, but if you do get a 5 link, faster attacks could be pretty good. Pulverize could be okay. You're going to have really bad attack speed though. But yeah, shouldn't matter too much. Another gen reaction I want to talk about, and this is a very important one, is Cast When Shaken Molten Shell with Words Mark. So whenever you're using Boneshatter, you're actually hitting yourself quite a bit. And with Cast When Shaken, you're proccing Words Mark constantly. This is up a lot, which means your rage generation is insane. This is one of the best things about the build, and it's why Berserk is so strong in the build. You pretty much have like permanent uptime on Berserk. Once you pop Berserk, it'll actually stay up for quite a while, and then it'll end, and you'll like be capped rage again quickly afterwards. At least if you're in a nice big pack. I'll quickly show you guys a video of me doing like Harbingers and Mayhem, and you guys can kind of see how good Berserk is. That's everything I wanted to cover, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will link the POB in the description below, along with my video from 3.19. That video is still completely up to date. It's from the SF Hardcore Mayhem event, where I hit level 100 with the build. So the build's very, very strong. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next time.